Clearly, the global breadth of this pandemic is unlike anything we've experienced in our lifetimes. So to suggest that any firm in asset management or otherwise has had a foolproof playbook on how to best handle this event would be disingenuous. For most firms, the first response has been to ensure the safety, welfare, and ultimately productivity of their workers. Even prior to the pandemic, most firms have had at least some experience with enabling remote work, but few, if any, have had to do it at such scale. And there's varying levels of maturity for remoting, and it runs the gamut from physical infrastructure to applications. For example, some of our clients have utilized the standard remote desktop connection to access their desktops at the office. This gives them the ability to access a specific set of applications, especially those that aren't web-enabled. The problem here is that if the desktop goes down or requires a reboot, who's around to do it? The more mature organizations have already implemented an enterprise-wide VDI, or virtual desktop interface platform. And this allows desktops and applications to be hosted server-side. And even for firms that don't want the expense or complexity of managing a VDI installation, the major cloud providers like AWS and Azure, they offer this capability. So this kind of levels the playing field quite a bit and allows smaller managers to also utilize this technology. Another challenge we've seen is typically with larger firms that offshore a significant part of their operations. Often this workforce is located in a developing second or third world country, which is exactly why there's a cost of labor arbitrage. But in an event like this that's essentially quarantined the world, broadband network infrastructure to the home is not ubiquitous. And there are also contractual terms and certain cleanroom requirements with some offshore suppliers that simply can't be met or need to be revisited. Another major consideration is risk management. The ability to view your portfolio, issuer, and counterparty risks across the full capital structure in near real time is critically important. Market volatility has obviously been quite high, and there are likely to be substantial losses, margin calls, and bankruptcies, especially given the shutdown that so many individuals and companies have been subjected to. Also, with the impact to cash flows, firms should expect an uptick in redemptions, which will introduce further price pressure as firms liquidate assets to meet these requests. On a positive note, the impact of government stimulus and the accommodations or forbearance provided by some creditors will help to alleviate some of the near-term pressures, but it's simply not enough to prop up a global economy that's largely been put on ice. Nonetheless, we believe that the firms that have invested in a robust enterprise data strategy and platform will be in a much better position to weather this storm. And finally, there are the clients. Everyone is on high alert, so the ability to proactively communicate and respond to the flood of inquiries in a timely manner is critical. Most firms, including those outside of the industry, have simply been overwhelmed by the uptick in client outreach. For larger firms, call centers don't have sufficient capacity to answer this volume of calls, and the complexity of some of the client requests may even be more than the call center staff are capable of answering. So what most of us have witnessed, including in our personal lives, is that engagement has moved almost entirely online through digital channels. Again, the firms that have invested in robust digital and data capabilities, including a rich and interactive client experience, they're much better prepared to both satisfy the uptick in demand and retain or even gain clients simply because they provided a less frustrating, less stressful, and ultimately more capable experience. Well, we think it'll take a while to return to some semblance of pre-pandemic normal even after the stay-at-home orders are relaxed. Office space has been transitioning to open floor plan models in recent years, which I actually quite like for the energy it creates, but we may see a return towards more individualized space given health concerns, rather than stuffing people into ever tighter quarters. Ordinarily, that would drive up the price of commercial real estate given the increased floor plan requirements, but we also believe that work from home will become a more acceptable, if not promoted, practice. Clearly, there will be many lessons learned about business continuity, and we expect to see firms invest in more mature capabilities like VDI, but also more portable information security, cloud, and web-based applications. We also expect to see an increase in strategic partnering as firms look to focus on their core competencies and leverage an ecosystem of best-in-class providers to fulfill other functions. Here, we think a robust data fabric was going to be key to ensuring a seamless and secure flow of information while also reducing vendor lock-in. Now, for asset management, we would argue that the industry was already in the midst of significant change. Obviously, the proliferation of lower-cost passive product and the diversification and liquidity of ETFs has led to considerable fee and margin pressure across both passive and active strategies. And true alternatives continue to command a premium, but even there we've seen fee and margin pressure. In part, some of that is due to an abundance of dry powder sitting on the shelf, but also increased competition for deals, including from some of the traditional active managers who've begun to pivot towards the sector. So there's some risk of overcrowding and a mid to longer term increase in deal pricing, which might also drive down returns, though by how much remains to be seen. Nonetheless, we believe that more data-driven investment processes and client servicing will develop in the private markets simply to maintain an edge. And the net of all this is that asset management product is increasingly commoditized. And just as in any industry, we think that there's going to be product firms and there'll be solutions firms. And some may pursue both. Product firms are going to be more price sensitive and will have to be increasingly efficient in their manufacturing and distribution functions. Think of a product supplier in virtually any other industry today. With access to price discovery at their fingertips, consumers will price shop, especially if there's virtually no difference in product capabilities or quality from one supplier to the next. Because these firms operate on razor-thin margins, they'll also have to have scale. And so really technology is the only way in which you can drive this kind of efficiency and scale with positive operating leverage. The solutions firms tend to be higher value and stickier. They find ways in which to package diverse products to meet a client's investment objectives and risk tolerance. And in the institutional world, this has typically been referred to as multi-asset class solutions, or OCIO, but we think it's going to have to scale for retail too, and it'll need to be much more than just sticking a client in a model portfolio. Here, especially, the end-to-end client experience is going to be critical, and the ability to digitalize that journey with timely and interactive self-service is going to be equally important, especially to achieve scale. Now, in both cases, we expect the firms that embrace and execute a true digital transformation will be the most successful. This is more than just standing up a few individual applications and requires a review of the business and operating models, as well as the go-to-market. Even systematic quant funds that utilize advanced data and technology capabilities for their investment processes are going to need to enhance their client servicing capabilities as well. Ultimately, these have to be business rather than technology initiatives, and they have to be driven by leadership. So this is a perspective that we've been sharing with clients for a while now, well before COVID-19. And one of the funniest graphics I've seen recently is one that asks the question, what will make firms pursue digital transformation? And the three options are the CEO, client demands, and COVID-19. You can guess which one is circled. It may very well be true that the lasting impact of this pandemic, and at least from a business perspective, will be that it serves as a catalyst or call to action to ramp up end-to-end digital capabilities in the industry.